All right, you are live. All
All
right,
right.
perfect. Nice. So, guys, I have John from Bulldog Mindset here. He's a real G, and you're a little bit different from the normal manosphere, right? Like, you're not like. I mean, I'm not. I'm pretty like new, I guess. I'm not so familiar with the terms. Like, what would you describe yourself as? Like, are you like red pill or whatever they describe themselves as?
Yeah, I don't even really, you know, consider myself in part of the manosphere. I kind of did a video where I was talking about like leaving the manosphere because there's so much little girl drama right now in there. You know, there's too many people like identifying with these groups. You know, MGTOW, Red Pill, all these things. And really, what I'm just about is just helping men, right? Just helping men to become men, to get rid of the victim mindset. And so I don't really subscribe to any kind of specific philosophy, right? There's things from different ideologies, from Red Pill, from MGTOW stuff that, PUA, whatever that I incorporate in what I teach men because they're truths. But what I'm looking for is what is going to help men the most, to navigate the waters of life, of growing up and becoming a successful man, and then relationships with women. But I think there's a big danger. A lot of the factions and kind of tribes have been created have become really cultish in nature, right? Where people are no longer thinking for themselves. Instead, they're just parroting what someone else has said. So I really try to set myself apart as just saying, okay, I'm just helping men. I'm not gonna, I'm not joining any camps or anything. I'm on my side. I'm not on anyone's team. And so, as long as there's an opportunity to talk to and help men, that's what I'm gonna do. So
Yeah, I mean, okay, so basically, are you saying that the red pill really doesn't help people? Is that what you're saying?
well, yeah, I mean, what I would say is that it doesn't really exist, right? It's just something that someone, how can you define it exactly, right? What exactly is it, right? And what is the truth of the red pill, right? The whole idea of the red pill is this idea that, obviously comes from the matrix. You take the blue pill, you remain ignorant. You take the red pill, you find out really the truth of reality, right? So there's a lot of ways. Red pill just represents realism, the truth of reality, what is the actual truth. And a lot of times in the content on YouTube, on the manosphere, that represents the truth about female nature, right? Some of those things are true, some of those things aren't true. Some of those things, I think what I see a lot of guys that look at the red pill is they start to have this anger problem. They're now angry at the world. They're not seeing it as what they should be, which is just, here, look, here, you've been playing this game for a long time, this game, and you didn't know what the rules are, and here's what the rules are. And so, you shouldn't be upset about knowing what the rules are. Sure, maybe the game wasn't what you thought it was, but it is what it is, and here it is. And so I think there's some definite value in understanding the truth of reality of the nature of women. But there's a lot of harm in adopting like this mindset of, okay, I see a lot of women hating and a lot of just the wrong type of mindset about this, right? Anger, trying to change the world, trying to change society. That's all the victim mindset, right? I kind of see a lot of times within the red pill and a lot of guys that are deeply involved with this, the same as feminism, right? Because feminism
Oh,
is man hating
okay,
and it's victim mindset. Yeah.
I see. Well, okay, do you then believe that, there's like some red pill like things that they say? For example, do you believe that you should love women? You should, let's say in a relationship, right?
Mhm.
Should you love your girlfriend?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, otherwise, why are you there? At least if you're in a committed type of relationship.
Exactly.
There's all different levels that you could have, right? But if you're in a committed relationship, then yeah, there's no reason why you shouldn't. In fact, I would take it further to say is that like if you want to be a man that's successful with women, you have to love women in general, right? There's this whole idea of that I think is kind of lost today, right? To this maybe this generation of of a womanizer, right? It used to be that guys that were successful with women were called womanizers, right? Just because they love women, right? Now it's like, you know, it's like all these guys hate women. And I'm like, well, you can't really, it's not going to be, you're not going to be successful as you could be, is if you were more of a seducer rather than, you know, this trying to act all tough and like, you know, I don't need a woman. And you know, and there's some aspects of it, right? Obviously being a nice guy, being, you know, a people pleaser, right? Being a doormat, those are not attractive aspects, right? But it doesn't, you know, I think a lot of guys, they miss the idea. They jump from one to the other. They're like, okay, well, so I have to hate women and women are always out to get me. And that's not really true. There's a deeper truth that's in between the two.
You know, that reminds me. I was just watching this video of apparently there's this thing called the like I don't know if it's called the black pill or something, but or no, it's called MGTOW exactly. So
Yeah.
MGTOW is like a bunch of men who became losers and who admitted of being that they're losers because women that they were defeated by women, right? So after being defeated, they tucked their tails, and now basically they hate women because they realize they can't get women, right?
Right.
So these are like the losers of them all, right? Because they, like, I guess you could get women and then still, you know, talk shit about them. But if you admit that you can't even get them because your wife divorce raped you, then you're like the bottom, right?
Right. Yeah. And I think that again, that's a good example of what happens. So you have somewhat of a good philosophy or ideology, and then you get a group of guys together, and some of the guys that maybe have a good grasp of this concept of what they're trying to achieve, maybe they're on the right, you know, they see things right, but you end up repeating this and then it gets lost in translation, and then so you end up having an ideology that like MGTOW, where MGTOW at the surface level, I agree with it. It makes sense, right? Men going their own way, right? As a man, every man should go his own way. That should be the default, right? You should not be following along with the crowd. You should not be chasing after women and basing your life about women, right? You should be figuring out what is it that you want to do in life, going on your own purpose and your own mission in life, and doing that. Now, where it gets twisted is that MGTOW has become really incels that are angry, right? That's what it's really become. And they've said, okay, well, going your own way means completely forsaking women. It means that they're like all these other things have been attached to it, and it's developed into this sort of like a hate movement as opposed to like a healthy personal development, right? Guys that are going their own way, they shouldn't be concerned about what anyone thinks, right? Which it's kind of ironic that so many MGTOW guys, even though at its core the philosophy makes sense, but so many of them are following the leader, right? They're following this whole philosophy, this ideology. They belong to this group. They highly identify their identities with this group, and so they're not going their own way. They're doing the exact opposite of going their own way, right? If I see a man that's like, no, I'm just gonna do whatever I want, I'm going my own way, I'm gonna live my life how I want, I don't care if other people like, I don't care if women like it, or if they don't want to be in my life, that's fine. That's a true guy that's going his own way. I'm not going to have any complaints about it. But what we see today on the internet is not that.
Yeah, totally. Honestly, those they remind me of beta males because I don't think an alpha male should really identify with a group. I think that's a very feminine trait. Because if you look at like the world nowadays and it's moving towards, and you know, that's like a little bit political too, but it's moving more towards like identifying with certain things. You know, like I'm black, for example, right? And it sounds weird, but I've never really seen myself as black. Like
Right.
I'm black. Like I don't really care. I just do stuff that benefits me and it's gonna place me in the best position possible. So if I see people that identifying as like, oh, I identify, for example, I was talking with this girl, she's funny. She's blonde, blue eyed, her mom's from Germany. No, her mom's from Mexico, her dad's from Germany. It's like, well, I guess I don't identify as white, but I identify as Mexican. I don't know, like it's like, what are you talking about? I don't even say, oh, I identify as black. So I think it's like it's just a
Right.
feminine trait. To identify with stuff. You should just identify with yourself and do, you know, what's best for you and for those who you love and or who are around you. But then I have a quick question too. So, um, would you say, uh, should you respect women that you're in a relationship with, or treat them with respect?
That's a good question. So you should you should treat everybody with respect, right? Because how you treat people is not a reflection of who they are, but it's of who you are, right? You should never allow someone else to bring you down to a lower level, right? Your behavior and the way that you treat people, the way that you act should be a reflection of you and your principles, not the other person, whether they're deserving of it or not. Now, if you're in a situation or interaction with someone you who does is not worthy of your time and respect, then you exit the situation. You don't disrespect them because there's no need to do that, because that's a reflection of you, right? You always have your character that you with uphold no matter what. So what it comes down to is whether or not you want to be in interaction with someone, because the choice that you can make, right, as someone, as a man that has principles, is whether or not you will actually give your time or attention to an individual, right? Not your behavior shouldn't be based on who they are. So that's how I look at it in that respect, is that you should respect everyone. You should show them that respect. Now, you might not have a high degree of respect for them, but you show them that respect because that action reflects more on who you are as a man rather
Yeah.
than them. So,
Well, because I have this new analogy,
mm,
and I always tell people, and they always say it's the most toxic thing they've ever heard. So I want to hear your opinion.
okay,
So I say that if you're in a relationship with your girlfriend, or whatever, your wife, I don't think you should respect. I mean, you should treat them with respect, but you shouldn't respect your wife or your girlfriend, because the more you respect her, the less she respects you. And then I always have this analogy of, like, it's like having a phone,
mhm,
right? Because if you have a phone, like, your phone is super important to you, right? Like, if you don't want to lose it, it's super valuable to you. You take care of your phone. You don't just leave it wherever. You really care about your phone. You really appreciate it. And, you, like, in a type of relationship, it will be analogous, like loving your girlfriend. You love your phone because it's so valuable. It's such an asset to you, but you don't really respect your phone, right? Like, if you lose it, you might be really, really upset, but you're just gonna get a new phone. Like, you're not gonna get hung up on your iPhone 12 Pro, right?
right. Yeah,
What
no,
do you think about?
I think that's a good analogy. I think that's accurate, right? That's a way of looking at it. Maybe the term respect is, yeah, I don't know what the term is, but that's a good way of looking at it, is that, as a man, you have to put the mission first. You have to be it's such a mindset that, you're treating people with respect, but you're not necessarily, you're not allowing that to, like, influence you so deeply that you couldn't um that you couldn't function without that, right? It's basically, I would say that maybe the word is to not be needy, right? Because that's a way, like, it's like being dependent or needy, right? If you always have to maintain some degree of your independence, right? If you're attached to something where it is causing you to become weaker, then that's undermining you as a man. So,
Yeah, totally. And, even with a phone, right? Like, you won't just take your phone and just smash in the floor, or just,
right,
do dumb. Like, you're gonna take care of it, right? You kind of like treating it with respect, right? You're not harming your phone, right? But it's of use to you, and, like, your phone isn't gonna tell you what to do, right? Like, basically, the phone functions for you in a way. So, but how do you think men are actually being manipulated by women? Because I see nowadays, and a lot of times when I start saying stuff, especially to beta males, right? And they haven't really been introduced to anything red pill or whatever. I see, like, what they really defend their ideas, and I feel like they're doing it not because so much it's true or they believe it's true. It's more like they feel like they don't want to offend women, and
right,
if they say things, that women are gonna be like, "Oh, why did you say that, Lucas? Oh my God, you're such a feminine. You're so toxic. Oh." And they're, like, actually scared of women, and it's like a sort of manipulation, because it's like inverse manipulation. They think if they cater to women and treat them like super nice, and, all this feminism stuff, that they're actually women are gonna like them more. And I always let them know it's funny because you say what I'm saying is toxic, but in the end, I'm the one ending up with the girls, and you have none.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. There's this it's people pleasing, right? So many guys, and people in general, they don't want to upset the apple cart. They're afraid of displeasing people. They're afraid of asserting their boundaries. They're afraid of getting negative reactions from people, especially guys in regards to women. Like you said, they're afraid that if they say something that might offend women, that now they are going to suffer the consequences, that women aren't going to like them, right? They don't understand that, because they're still trying to befriend women. They don't understand that attraction is not the same thing as liking someone, as a friendship type
Yeah.
of situation. And so because of that, there and that's part of the problem, is that as a man, like, if you are looking to not offend and you're playing it safe, that's seen as beta behavior. That's seen as someone who's untrustworthy, unreliable, right? Because they are
Yeah.
looking out for their best interest. They're not a risk taker. Whereas if you don't care, if you're unabashedly who you are, you don't care about offending people. Doesn't mean that you can't have tact, but you're going to say what you want to say. Then you're seen as more reliable and trustworthy, because you're more authentic, you're more real of who you are. Because we, just like, we can detect it, we know, this guy probably doesn't really think this, right? He's just doing this, right? Women see the same thing. They see through it. When a guy says he's a feminist, they're like, okay, yeah, this guy, he's a poser. He's pretending, like, this is not really, like, why would you be for something that's not in your best interest? It doesn't make any sense at all, right? So
Yeah. Yeah, it's
it's
totally
fake.
posing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm like, it's funny because women really hold together, and that's why with all this feminism stuff, like they really hold together. So let's say, um, I was reviewing. I don't know if you know Skippy. Do you know Skippy? He's like a
Mm.
YouTuber. He's like the most awkward. It's funny because he's like a virgin. He goes on dates, and he's the
uh,
most awkward ever. And
yeah.
he was date. I was just reviewing his channel where he was filming the entire interaction with the woman, with his date, and he was
uh,
like making jokes and all that. He looks like an incel, but a nice guy and everything. And then the waitress came in order
uh,
to serve, and then I could just see the woman and her date looking at each other, and
yeah.
just they instantly knew, okay, we need to like act and hold together, you know.
Yeah.
And like men should do that more too, just hold together and be for their own interests. And as you said, like it's kind of posing if you're actually trying to like remove benefits from men
Right.
in
Yeah.
that way, like you're basically like arguing against men and for women. I've always thought that's kind of weird to do just from a standpoint of team, like why are you on the other team? That's You're not being real. You just want to like appease them. So because
Well,
you hope maybe sometime you get you get closer to their box.
yeah. And again, it comes down to the problem that you highlighted before about identification, right? Like you said, you don't identify with being black, right? Because it's ridiculous to identify with. It's just like, I was just thinking about the other day. It's like, why don't we just identify with our hair color then? Like, why don't we, like, I mean, like, defend the blondes? Like, let's, you know what I mean? Or blue eye people, yes, right? Like, let's, like, it's so silly. Or like people with beards, okay, beard genetics, yes. It's dumb. It's just as dumb as identifying with a race, which is technically a made up thing. It's as dumb as identifying with anything, right? Because it's like, why, why do we care that other people that have the same attributes as us have success as well? Well, why do we care about that? I don't give a fuck. I care about my success. I care about my tribe, like the people around me. I don't care if other people that look like me have success or operate, like, it doesn't matter. Like, from a, we're too concerned. And I think part of the whole thing with weak men and feminism and all this is, it's like, too concerned about everybody else, I don't give a
Yeah.
fuck about what's happening if people are starving in China. I really don't give a fuck. It doesn't matter. I don't. It doesn't affect me, right? It doesn't, and there's nothing I can do about it anyway. Like shit happens around the world, right? The best thing that you can do as a man is to defend you and your own. Right. And that's the thing, is that's where your focus of concern needs to be. That's why I like the whole thing with feminism. Like, I don't really care. I don't care about any of this shit. I don't care about equal opportunity. I don't care about any of that stuff because it doesn't fucking concern me. You know what I mean? You see what I'm saying? It's like, as that now from an ethical standpoint, do I think that people should be treated fairly and treated equally and shouldn't be discriminated? Of course, right? Of course. But I really don't give a fuck about it from a social cause perspective because I'm too busy dealing with my own shit and the people that I'm defending and protecting and providing for around me. And so that's why, like, this all becomes an identification problem, right? It's like if you identify with a group, that group has no, it has no loyalty to you, right? Even just the group of men versus women, right? This is again another identity, right? That what I was talking about is it's like, okay, so we identify as men, okay, and and the opposition is women, and we care if, like, men have rights or women have rights based on what? Based on your gender? It's a ridiculous notion, right? Let's look at, like, what is the opportunity for you and focus more on you and your immediate tribe and who your what your agenda is. That's how really we should be thinking. As soon as we look at the global level and we try to, like, go for some kind of cause, we become weaker, right? Because that means that we're diverting our energy to a identity or group that doesn't care about us, that isn't advancing us, but we are making a sacrifice for the greater good, right? Who defines what the greater good is? So that whole kind of thinking is where all of this roots from, is this thinking that in some way you as an individual are responsible in some way to the community at large, or to a group that you identify with, or something like that, that doesn't actually benefit you in any way. A real good book on the subject is How to Be Free, How I Found Freedom in an Unfree World by Harry Brown. He was actually, like, ran for president under the libertarian, uh, you know, uh, as a libertarian, but yeah, but that's really where this whole issue comes from.
Totally. Yep. The funny thing is, I mean, I think you should identify as what you're best as, right?
Mm,
So, I mean, I do identify as some stuff. For example, I identify as an athlete because um, I'm a sprint athlete. I'm actually in the national Austrian team, and you should identify with things you're really good at, right? And the funny thing is, and I've told you this before, I run an OnlyFans business, and I literally only employ women
mm,
because they can more relate to other women. Because it's like if a business run, basically, it's like a women centric business. And I fired all my men because it's a funny misconception. I'm not sure if I told you that before, but on OnlyFans, the guys, I mean the girls there, they are not doing their accounts. Like literally, they have
right,
all it's the biggest scam on the planet, literally, because the um the top woman, all they do is provide the content. They just
right,
provide the photos, videos, and they literally have a whole team. One does the promotion, one does the messaging. So even if you're messaging with someone and building a relationship with that person, it's not even the girl. But women are far better than men, from what I've seen, with, for example, creating this personal relationship with someone and caring about someone. For example, when I put on a man, he was just going for the sales, like money, 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 money.
yeah,
Long run, that would always like turn off the customers. So I fired all my men. So I think, people are just different at different things. So even like with men and women, like in this case, I'm discriminating against men. I'm like, oh, you want this job?
right,
You're a man. Yeah, you can't get the job.
right.
So, and oh yeah, we talked about this before actually. So do you think men should learn how to pimp women? Now, when I say pimp, I'm not
Mm.
talking about like old school pimping. I'm just talking about in general. They should learn how to, I don't want to say exploit, but how to make use of women for their own benefit, right? Do you think or that?
Yeah, no, I think that's certainly true. I mean, because you have to look at it this way. You have to look at it as kind of like game theory, right? You have two opposing sexual goals, right? Because men are looking to get laid. With the diversity of women, women are looking to lock down a solid man and to get exclusivity with that, a high value man. And so, like, you have to be able to compete at that game. Now, it doesn't mean that your end games aren't the same, right? I mean, you might find a woman that you want to settle down, have family, have kids. I mean, obviously,
Yeah.
society functions on that, but at the same time, you have to be good at the game, right? And so, and part of the game is trying to exploit resources from the other party without having to, at the lowest cost possible, right? That's like just basic game theory, right? You want to try and get what you want with as little investment as possible on your side, right? And so that's what it really comes down to, right? You can say pimping, but what it comes down to is like it's the least investment in order to get the greatest result. So what is the result that you want, right? So women have been using this for on men for exploiting their sexual nature for a long time, right? Just like you said, OnlyFans is an actual, I don't like the word exploit because I don't think you can ever really exploit someone, but but that's essentially, the manipulation or whatever it is they're utilizing, getting a very little investment, right? So a woman who's running an OnlyFans, for instance, right, who is just providing the content, who's not doing the chat or anything like that, right? Her investment is very the smallest possible, which is just taking pictures or videos of herself, right? But she doesn't have to do the chat messages. She doesn't have to do the promotion. She doesn't have to do all those things, and she gets the benefit from the many men of them giving her money, essentially, right? So she's playing that game. So she's essentially pimping those men, right? Because they are going out, working, making money, and giving it to her, right, for a very small investment, right? That she's putting forth. So women have been doing that. That's example on OnlyFans, but also women do that with, they know that they have these guys that are nice guys, that are orbiters, that like them, these beta guys, and they will get dinners and they'll get drinks and they'll get, and sometimes it's just the attention, right? Just this guy is going to give them attention, give them rides to places, right? That kind of, again, you could call it exploitation, but it's really pimping. Like that's what they're doing. It's the same type of thing. So women have been doing that and learn that skill to exploit the sexual desire that men have for them, so men can do the same, right? But they have to understand what is it that women want, right? So in order to do that, you have to understand that, first of all, you have to be a super high value man of having high status. Women want that. They want to lock down that. So what are you promising as a man? Right? The promise of exclusivity, that she's special, that she's right. And then you're gaining the same kind of benefit. Now, the question is, like, how far do you want to take that, and how much, how far down the road do you want to do that? That's the question you have to ask yourself. But learning that skill and understanding that dynamic, I think, is essential, because then you understand that there's actually something that you have that is powerful, right? Women know from an early age that their tits and their ass are powerful assets that they possess, right? Guys don't realize what their powerful assets are. And so they end up on the wrong end of it. If you're a man who understands what your assets are and how much more valuable in many cases, because tits and asses can be created, right? They can be bought. A lot of what a man brings to the table cannot be bought. It has to be earned and created, right? And so if you understand that as a man, then you flip that position of power and you can utilize that. So I think that's why I would say, even though this is a long answer, is that men have to learn that skill. If they learn that essentially you could call it pimping, whatever it is, but it's realizing what powerful asset that you have, that you can put a minimal investment and get a larger return back.
Yeah, for sure. And you said some really interesting things, because, for example, a woman's value is literally like she gets the value from birth, genetics, right?
Right.
Like there's women literally out there that are like 9 out of 10s, 8 out of 10s, 9 out of 10s, and also on OnlyFans. Just because the girl literally she only has her tits and her ass and a beautiful face, and that's the only reason, or basically the only reason why she gets to work with me, and then she can just literally sit on her couch, sit on her bed, do nothing, sometimes it frustrates me because I'm like, damn, like all she does is just sit in the bed, go to bed, sleep, and I do all the behind the scenes work. I'm building all the team, all the business, and she just gets the money. Like literally, her value was given to her at birth. But with men, it's like you have to create all this stuff. You have to go through the grind. You have to go through the blood, sweat, and tears. You have to really work it, and not only for like a year or two, but like consecutively, right? I mean, I'm an athlete, so I've been training since I'm 13, just training every single day. And really, that's only how you can get to a top level if you put in the work consistently 5 years in a row, just grinding your ass off. And I'm sure also with business, and I'm sure also with bulldog mindset, it took time and time and effort, to build that so that it is where it is right now. So, but then on the flip side, of course, females lose their value after the
Right.
age of 30, and men can just keep on going indefinitely, basically.
Yeah, and so and that's where the balance comes in, is right, because women have an expiring asset, right? So that they might have a more higher value asset that requires less initial investment, right? Genetically gifted, given that asset, but then that asset quickly expires. It has a quick expiration date. Not only does it has a quick expiration date, but it also requires a high level of maintenance in many cases, right? Because when you look at women that maybe are 8 or 9 or 10, whatever, they're not going to be that without, sure, genetically they may be gifted, but with the standards and the arms race of beauty today, they have to put on a lot of makeup. They have to, do a lot of times surgeries and things like that to enhance what they have. So there's still an arms race that they have to compete at with this asset they know that's going to expire anyway. And so they have to maximize the value of it, right? So it makes sense, right? So that's why it's like, also when guys are angry about the situation, like, oh, I have to work for it, and these women, they're just, young women, they get all this stuff handed to them and all this stuff. It's like, well, yeah, there's some truth to it. I get it, but it's also, it's, I don't know if I would want to be on the other side of it. I don't know if I'd want to be, having to maximize the value that I have, and
Yeah.
try to make the money that I can off of this, or to try to land a high value man while I still can, and to know that this asset's expiring and I'm competing against all these other women. And really, beauty is a replaceable asset. It's much more replaceable. And this is one of the things I try to teach guys, is it's like, okay, hot women are a dime a dozen. Like, that's just all over the place. You could be bought, cosmetically enhanced, makeup, all these things, right? Hot women are all over the place. So like when you go into a club and you're thinking, oh, like all these women are above because they're so, no, it's what's really difficult, what's more rare, is a successful man, right, who's actually masculine, who has built himself, in all these areas, financially, physically, mentally strong. That is way more rare and more harder to come by. And if you understand that and understand your value as a man, then things change. But most guys don't understand that, and they think that the hot woman is the valuable asset, which, again, it is a valuable asset, but it is an expiring asset, whereas men have the ability to build upon this over time. So it kind of balances out in the end, right? That's why it's like, but again, what it comes down to is it's two competing forces, right? Women have an asset that is that has an expiration on it, that has a limited value on it. So they're trying to maximize that as much as they can. Now, women maximize in different ways. Some women maximize it by trying to make as much money from that asset as possible. Some women maximize it by trying to, get as much validation. We'll say sex, because when women try to get a lot of sex, they're trying to get a lot of validation. That's what they're trying to get, right? So
Yeah.
we could put it that way, because it's not really, it's not really the same way that men think about sex in general, right?
Yeah.
So they're going to try and maximize their value as much as possible. So that's a competition. Men are trying to, to get that value from a woman, right? To get as much of that. That's why men are willing to pay to be like a sugar daddy. They're trying to get that value that they can capture with what they've created. So there's always going to be this competition of things. There's not a, to be upset about it on one side or the other is kind of ridiculous, because it's two players in a game trying to optimize what they have to get the best result possible for themselves. You just have to know that that's the game going on and how to play that game.
I mean, I love the fact that I was born male because it gives me the opportunity to create something gigantic and and have it be controlled by me, right? Because women cannot control the beauty really. Of course, surgery and everything, but even then, you gotta have the money and probably, usually it's like sugar daddy's paying for the surgery anyway. So it's not really like you got a really ugly woman and then she turns out to be a nine. It's usually like, the already hot girl becomes even hotter, right? So even in that sense, just if you're born an ugly female, like your life is just in hard mode. It just is what it is. Now, as a male, your life is always automatically born at the bottom, but you just have this opportunity to just keep going and keep. You can become the greatest athlete. You become world champion. You can become a millionaire. You can become super connected. You can become important. You can have status, and you can enjoy all the things the world has to offer, and you can control that, right? But as a woman, it's like, yeah, basically you're just born like that, and then you have to attach yourself to a high value man. And that's why, you know what I also want to ask you, I think women also just inherently realize at some point, because I'm here in America right now, I was in Colombia before, and I come to America, I instantly realize how brainwashed the girls are compared to other, like it's a stark difference. If to anyone watching, if you've never ever gone outside the US, you will never realize how brainwashed the people here are actually. It's like you can see it. And the women here, they're all about independence and all that and this and that. And I think at some point women just realize, either forced or willingly, that because they're not a man and they don't have this natural ability to be able to control their destiny as much, they have to attach themselves to a high value man. It's like joining the best team, right? You want to join the best basketball team because you can't just do it by yourself, right? And women realize that, and that's why in the end they're kind of forced to like join a man anyway, or else they're gonna be lonely. So like I don't want to do that as a man, have to rely on another man. I want to build my own destiny. So I think it's great to be a man.
Yeah, and the best way to look at it is like I always kind of look at life as a zombie apocalypse, right? It's like Walking Dead. It's like that's what we actually like. Everything that we've created in society and that we're pretending is all built on top of this foundation that in reality the way we're actually operating is zombie apocalypse, right? So if you think about how things play out in that instance, everything else is just a game, it's just bullshit, right? But let's say that there is a zombie apocalypse, end of the world, whatever scenario, like civilization is destroyed. Okay, women are going to who are they going to band are they going to band together and be like, I'm strong, independent, woman, girl power? No, they're going to go find the strongest fucking man and they're going to join that guy, right? So but that's how reality actually is, right? Like everything else is an illusion, right? As a man, what are you going to do in a zombie apocalypse? Are you going to go out and be like, I'm a sigma male going your own way? No, you're going to find this like the strongest group of men and you're going to join that fucking army and find the alpha male leader guy, right? That is going to fucking, kill the zombies, is not going to run away, whatever. And you're going to go join that guy or try to get in with that. Or maybe you are that guy and you're going to find people and you're going to recruit them and lead. And so when you think about like reality, because that's what's actually happening, we're just playing this kind of game, pretending like that's not happening, wearing suits and ties and going to work and pretending like that. But in reality, like the carnal nature of humanity is exactly that. And if you understand that, then you understand what actually motivates people and how society actually works, right? Women can say that they are, that they don't need no man and, girl power and all that. And again, and great, to some degree, that's good. But in reality, the instinct is going to be to find the strongest man that is going to lead, take care of them, be able to kill the fucking zombies, right? Same thing with guys. Guys can be like, oh no, alpha and beta male, that's some bullshit or whatever. Whatever. I go my own way, I do my own thing. But in reality, men are going to respect and look for the men that are strong and powerful, or you're going to be that man and you're going to lead and you're going to have a tribe. So there is no, everything else is bullshit, right? That's and the same thing is like also you can look at it in terms of the dog eat dog world of nature. Like people are going to, if they can kill you and steal your shit, they're going to kill you and steal your shit, right? They're going to survive. They're going to optimize their own survival and their tribe survival above everything else. And so anyone that's operating outside of that kind of mentality or thinking is weak, right? That is a weakness. Or that's why, again, bringing it back to these global identities, identifying with a particular group of people, identifying with the country, even identifying with feminists or whatever kind of, it's weakness, because you are utilizing your resources to benefit a group of people that has no benefit to you. When it's your tribe, when it's your people, when it's a different story. But so anything that causes you to identify with some group is weakness, and in the zombie apocalypse would get you killed, right? Unless it was your immediate tribe that had immediate benefit to you.
Yeah, totally. I mean, just quick to that, to the identification. It's, for example, let's say identified as black, right?
Mhm.
And the black community said, well, now, we all have to do this one thing, and yeah, it's gonna harm you, but it's gonna be for everyone's great benefit. Basically, I don't know, some example where basically the black community decides to do something that's against my own interests, then I
Right.
would have to do something that harms me, so I become
Right.
weaker. And that's where the identification hurts you, because you literally limit yourself. You put yourself in the box. Well, I'm this, so I cannot do this, and you just become weak, because the strong males should have as much capabilities and options as possible to the disposal in order to survive. And to your zombie apocalypse thing, that's so on point, because I've been traveling South America the past 3 months now. I was in Mexico, I was in Panama, I was doing some things in Panama and Colombia, and you can just see how much more feminine the women are, because they literally have to. Like, you don't have another choice. I was in Colombia, and I was meeting with girls, and they were just telling me literally how they have no money, they're poor, they can do shit. Like, if you worked at McDonald's here in America and you brought the money back in Colombia, you would basically be rich. Like,
Yeah.
basically, that's how bad it is there. And these women, they don't have like the option to be independent. Like, that's not an option. The best example is actually Mexico. I was with some friends in this high end club, because clubs in Mexico actually closed, or at least in Guadalajara. So they open it for, like, special people. It's actually narcos that they open that shit for.
Right.
And first thing that uh, they told us is that do not speak to the girls in the
Uh,
club, because they're all owned by narcos. So basically, the women were viewed as property,
right.
and
Yeah.
it's because in these countries, like, the narcos just have to say. So the women literally just decide, well, am I gonna be with poor Pedro, who has nothing going for himself, or am I going to be with the powerful, rich narco? And okay, he's a criminal, he does fucked up shit, he kills people, but I'll be taken care of if I do everything he says, and if I
Right.
basically become his property. And women they're fine with it. They just be okay. I'm just gonna be the narco's property, and it's just so different. Like, I was just telling this girl at this college, I was like, look, you're saying all this stuff about independence. If you were in Mexico, you would just end up some property to some narco anyway.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
And yeah, it's crazy that this independence brainwashing is literally just infested the American mind, and that's why I think America is really going down. Like, if you go to America, you can instantly see the degeneracy. You can instantly see how the interpersonal relationships are really, really bad, because people don't depend on each other anymore. You got the men going their own way, being beta males and losers. Then you got the women being independent and just doing whatever they want. It's just really bad.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I agree.
What do you think about Will Smith? I don't know if you've heard about this new story that came out. Like, Will Smith is getting cucked by his wife, or whatever she is again. Have you
I
heard
mean,
that?
I heard the first one that came out where she was like talked about her affair, what does she call it, entanglement or something like that. What the latest one is that she says she doesn't sleep with him in bed or something like that, or I don't know what
Yes,
the yeah.
Will is like really bad at sex or something like that,
Oh,
and
she said that.
she basically said something like, he can't read her mind, and that's why the sex is bad, and blah blah blah. She was like having another talk, and like, what do you think about that? Because you did say that sex view of women view sex differently, right? Like, they view it as
Right.
validation. So that's why I always tell my guys that they can use sex as a weapon,
Right.
because in relationships, actually, like a husband and wife, usually the wife will like say, "Oh, we won't have sex anymore," blah blah blah. But I think it's far more effective and far more devastating if you tell a woman, for example, "I'm not gonna have sex with you," or you just withdraw your attention or something like that, because it's gonna destroy their ego. And sex is so important, I think, because Will Smith was not giving her the D well enough, that she's crazy now.
Yeah, I mean, the thing I would say about that, well, I mean, there's a couple of things to, so the first one that I think is benefit to men is that you have to be good at this, right? Most most women are their experience, sexual experience with men is that it sucks. It's bad, right? Because there's a big different, big scale of being good versus not, whereas for women there's not as big of a range, right? Women don't have as much that of control of the situation. So so I think that's certainly important that men should realize this, because to one degree, like it's almost like Will's misfortunes are our gains, right? Because she's talking about what she's actually thinking, right? In a free form, and most women aren't going to say those things in a relationship, but she's saying them. So as a man, like, listening to that, you should listen to what she's saying, because that's probably a situation that you might be in, right? So this idea of that, like, he's not reading her mind, he's not very good at sex. Okay, a lot of women are thinking this, they're just not saying it. So that's puts you on high alert as a man, like how valuable it is to become good at that.
But
The
you,
second, mhm.
or sorry, you want to say something? Something
Oh,
second?
yeah, I was gonna say the second thing about it, which is the real issue, is that what is he doing? Like, I mean, he's basically cucked himself, like you said, like, just the fact that he's allowing her to speak and to say these things. That, again, someone would say, "Oh, he can't stop her from saying," but he can exit stage left,
Exactly.
right? If I'm in a relationship with a woman and she says some kind of shit like that, about, I mean, especially publicly, that's it. I'm not going to stand around, like, you just exit. Like, you're going to stay in that situation when you've been publicly embarrassed, disrespected publicly, whether it's true or not, it doesn't matter. It's like it's a huge degree of disrespect. So, I mean, he's basically shown himself to be, a weak beta male, which is kind of funny, because, I mean, in all honesty, like, when you look at, well, it was funny. I was just listening to a Halloween mix or whatever, and one of Will Smith's old songs came on there, Fresh Prince, and you're like, you look back and you look at his history, and it was like he was kind of this goofy fucker anyway, right? Like, from Fresh Prince and Bel, he wasn't like this alpha man. Like, we kind of painted him into this picture, and like Hollywood kind of tried to, but he was always been this beta goofy kind of fucker. Like, he never was like the strong masculine man, right? Even, Men in Black, maybe, like, whatever, and whatever, he like kind of learned how to act a little bit like it, but he was still not. So we're kind of judging him by a standard that he didn't ever really live up to anyway. So,
Yeah.
which is unfortunate, but he's become the laughing stock because of that, because he's allowing the situation to happen. But it also goes, it's a good example just to show that, like, having money and fame and status, that does not make you a masculine. It doesn't. It's not. It's not that. And even in that, because a lot of guys, MGTOW guys, will look at that and they'll say, "Oh, see, even if you're this high value man, you have a lot of money, you have a lot of status, right? You're good looking, the women will still cheat on you. Women will still disrespect you. Like, there's no escape. There's nothing that you can do to beat hypergamy." But that's bullshit, because you could literally be a trailer park trash guy living in a trailer and have women respect you more based on who you are, with no status, with no money, uh, with minimal looks, just because you don't tolerate shit and you actually are masculine and act masculine, right?
Mm.
That's the thing about it. That's what you can really gain from this, is that there's no amount of bullshit that you can do. You can make as much money as you want, you can be as famous as you want, that will never make up for actually being a fucking man. That's what I take from it.
Yeah, it's so true, man. That's also one of the reasons why I tell guys it's so important to learn how to be a pimp. You don't have to be a full-fledged pimp, but at least you have to know the underlying psychology behind it. Because basically, these guys, they get rich, and
Right.
that's how they get right.
Right.
But pimp basically uses women to get rich. Now,
Right.
women can make you money in different ways. She doesn't have to basically make you money. You put her hands or whatever. She can save you time, right? And that way you become, more wealthy because, let's say she helps you with the cleaning the house and everything while you do your stuff. So I think you should have it in order in a way. So I think the problem of these guys, many of these guys, rich and famous guys, were like, what the fuck? You're rich and famous. How the fuck did you end up like this? It's because they used their wealth to get their women. They
Right.
didn't first they weren't first able to get what, like, I remember and to be honest now, like, I get less women because I'm on my mission. Like
Mhm.
right now I'm literally in 3 weeks I'll get my bachelor's in mathematics and computer science, and literally, like, I'm not even talking to girls right now because I am full. Like every hour of the day is basically full. I wake up, go to class, you know, then I have this interview with you, go train, go eat, go work in the business, go to sleep. So when I'm improving the most, I'm getting the least amount of women. And when I was broke and just not doing so much back then, I was able to dedicate so much time to getting women, and I was getting laid a lot. So I've seen this inverse correlation with, like, when you're more broke, you get more women, or you have the chance to get more women. And if you're like rich, I mean, if you're like on the grind, you're not. So my point is, these guys, they use the wealth to get the women, right? And you should learn how to get women if you are broke and basically have nothing going on for yourself. I was getting women even back then when I didn't have my own place. I would just convince women. I would just convince these girls, and they were older than me, like 24. I was like 18. Just be at their place, sleep over. If you have these skills, even being broke, you'll be good if you're wealthy.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's a really good point. I mean, what you invest in is what you value, right? So you look at, again, like these celebrities that use money or status to purchase women, they've made the investment. So that's why they consider what they have spent their resources on to be valuable. Whereas successful men who have women investing in them in helping them to build their success, right? Those women are invested in those men and consider them to be valuable, right? Whereas, in the inverse, where a guy has used his wealth, to get women, that woman didn't invest in anything. She just got something. She just got money. She just got whatever, this guy, the fame, the side effects of that. So she hasn't made an investment, and therefore she considers him to be of no value, right? You only really consider the valuable what you've invested into.
Oh yeah, for sure. And actually, want to ask you. You said you're how old again? 41 or
Yeah,
30 something? 41, right?
41.
I remember.
Yeah.
So I'm 22, right? Would you say there's a difference if you become older when it comes to getting women? Like, did you notice a difference in
Yeah,
how women?
it's easier. It's easier. Well, granted that you take care of yourself and that you are on your path, right? Because you know, in general, again, throughout history, women have always valued older men, right? That's in general, when you look at the matchup of ages, I mean, more in modern society, there's usually a 2 to 3 year age gap where women prefer a man that's 2 to 3 years older. But in reality, that can extend far beyond that. And the reasons why is because, again, we look at the expiring resources of women versus the growing resources of a man. A man that takes care of himself physically, by the time he's in his 30s, he's going to be in better. He can be better off, have a better physique, be in better shape than he was in his 20s, right? Or maybe even up to 40, let's say, or so. There's some decline at some point, but TRT and things like that actually give you a boost where that decline is further out. So we can extend that. But also when you look at status, right? Men have more time to develop status, which is the most valuable thing you can have as a man is status. There's no question about that. The best comparison I can give is like if you had, like, let's say some nightclub and there's attractive women in there, and some guy walks in and he's a supermodel. He's just super attractive, not well known, but he's just perfect 10 out of 10 face, physique, everything. Women will be attracted to that guy. They'll turn their heads, right? But then some, a 5 out of 10 rock star will come in and or a rapper with tattoos on his fucking face, looking like a goofy fucker, with whatever, some of these guys, they look like shit, right? But women will be all over that. They'll definitely choose the famous high status guy. So status is the number one. You cannot beat status, right? So again, getting back to the point is that you have time to build up those things: status, money, right? Your physique, and then more importantly, your masculinity, like who you are grounded as a man, right? I think a lot of times women can, especially guys that as they're younger, they're less experienced, women can knock them over, right? Because these guys haven't gone through shit. They don't know who they are as a man. Again, not to say that you can't be successful and you can't be on your path at early in life. You can, for sure. It just, if you play your cards right, you will have better options and it will be easier for you when you're older. If you don't play your cards right, then you'll be in a much worse position when you're older. But as a man, you've got an asset that can increase in value if you're doing the right things.
Yeah, because technically you should be getting better and better at every single age, right? Like if I look back, every age, I was able to get better at some things, And of course, at 30, you should be like way, way better than you were at the age of like 20 or something, right?
Right.
So, I mean, yes, because I see all these girls, and I realized this when I was young, like let's say you're 19
Mm.
and you want to fuck a 19-year-old. Like it's kind of hard because it's like these 19-year-olds are not available. And then you
Right.
ask yourself, like, who are they fucking? Like who
Right.
where and it dawned upon me, all these 19-year-olds are like with the 26 plus year olds. The guys have already
Exactly.
finished, the guys who already have jobs, the guys who already have their own apartments and all that shit. And I remember telling my friends back then, I was like, bro, we're like in the worst position ever because we're like 18, 19. If we like if we like go for like the 19, 20, 21 year olds, it's gonna be way harder.
Right.
And the girls at our age, but we can't really just go and date like 15 and 16-year olds
Right.
because we kind of pedo. So we're like in the worst position ever. So I remember telling that to my friends, and yeah, it's definitely harder. Well, I mean, I think you can totally offset it because I mean, obviously, like I'm still getting girls, and but I think as a man, you should always strive to be exceptional, and if you're exceptional at many things, right? If you're just good at a lot of things, women just will respect that. Doesn't matter the age, and you'll still get laid.
Yeah, and that's why, though, when you're younger, you should optimize your time towards building yourself, right? As opposed to chasing tail, because, and not to say that you can't do it at all. You should develop your social skills, but you're just going to have a lesser success rate. So why swim against the stream, right? Instead, go with, like, what do you have when you're young as a man? You have more energy and more ambition and motivation. So use that to make money, to build your status, to build yourself, your physique, the energy that you have and all that. And then when you get older, then spend more time when it's easier for you anyway, to you get a better return on your investment, right? So invest in the right order. Most guys do the opposite, and they spend their early 20s just fucking partying and chasing tail and shit, and they're getting mediocre results from that. And then by the time they hit their 30s, then they start to get serious about building a business or getting a job or whatever, and then it's too late. They're already fucked, and they've already, like, they're on the wrong path, and they're expired, so they've wasted their time. Whereas if you reverse it and you spend more of your time when you're younger, focus on business, on your physique, on building yourself, learning, growing as a man, then when you're older, you're going to have a lot more success, but you have to make that trade-off.
Yeah, totally. It's funny. It's kind of like compete. It's like competitions or being an athlete. Most of your
Mhm.
time is spent training. Like that is
Yeah,
90%. If you just go out, just compete, 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 you're gonna gas out. You're just gonna fall off. But
right.
literally, most of the time you spend training, and that's where you can hit peak performances. And I saw like on your About Me page, I was reading through it. Like, was that you, man? Like you look so different. Like,
Yeah, yeah.
hey, tell me about that. Like, so you like totally transformed because like you were like fat and like you were like out of shape and all that, and now you're like this chap basically.
Yeah, I mean that like I firmly believe that your inner world, your external is a reflection of your internal. It always is, right? And that's the thing that when you have that mindset, when you have the wrong mindset, when you have that kind of beta mindset like I had back then, lazy, undisciplined, socially awkward, like scared, like all these things, then your outward appearance, that's just how you're gonna look, right? You change that mindset, it changed the external. Even, when you look at some of my older videos, my voice changed, right? My mannerisms, like I'm a different person. And it's because what you think up here, in your head and who you are is going to express itself externally. And so that's why a lot of guys I coach on dating as well, my focus is on teaching them to become more masculine, and the external will change automatically, right? Some guys are like, oh well, how can I deepen my voice, or like how can I, you know come across like the right hand movements and gestures, and come across and stand the right way. And it's like, no, like you could focus on all those micro expressions and stuff like that, but it's just like, the best example of this is, I don't know if you've ever had this experience. Like most people, like you could probably identify like a guy that's gay, like just within like 2 seconds before he even opens his mouth, not even based on his clothing, just the subtle cue, just how he's standing, facial expression he has, right? We can identify these things very, very quickly, right? So why? Well, it's because people, like humans, have the ability to assess someone based on small micro expressions, things we cannot control at all, right? That's how we can
Yeah,
sense people's emotions and things like that as well. And so it's like, if you try and fool the world, if you think that somehow you're going to pretend to be like a strong masculine man, and internally you're not, it's no one's going to buy that shit. Like they're going to see you as a pussy, no matter how big you are, no matter what shape, it's like. And you see guys at the gym, I see it all the time, like there's some guys you see at the gym that they're big, right? They're buff and everything, and you're like, this guy
yeah,
just seems like a pussy to me, like for some
really. Yeah,
fucking reason, I don't know why, but he is. Like, it's because your assessment is correct, is because that's like, what it is, right? There's some guys you see walking down the street, you're like, I better not look at that guy in the fucking eyes, because that guy looks like fucking trouble. This guy's a fucking badass, right? So that's it's just like, that's what it really came down to for me, was as I changed the internal, then the external change, and that's, there's no way around it. So
yeah. It's being dangerous is like so much more important than basically everything. And being dangerous is a certain mindset, right? It's like a
yeah,
masculine hunting, top of the food chain mindset, and that's what women are essentially attracting. Then, like when I was in the club, you know, I remember this guy came up to me. It was kind of funny. He was like, because he wanted to punch one of my friends because he looked at his girlfriend. So this guy comes up, he's like, "Yo, hey, you look cool. You look muscular." I'm like, "Thank you." And then he like starts talking with me, and he's with his girlfriend,
yeah,
and the guy high fived me, right? And then the
yeah,
girl high fived too. I was like, should I like high five the girl? I don't know. And I was way bigger than the guy. I could have fucked that guy up immediately if I wanted to.
yeah,
I was stronger than him. I was um I was just a little bit taller than him. And I myself was feeling kind of anxious if I should like even high five his girlfriend. And the reason that was is because based on all the factors, that guy was far more dangerous
right,
than I was in that situation. Which means that, you know, the let's say girls in that situation decided, right, he would have been the one who could fuck me up, so they better side with him in that scenario, right?
right,
So that's why being dangerous, as you said, like the guy in the dark alley that can fuck you up, like maybe he just stabs you or something. Like you never know. Like in Colombia, literally, like that might happen. So it's better to have an alpha male mindset than to be big and strong and have a beta male mindset.
Exactly. 100%. Yeah, I agree.
Okay. So, we're nearing the end. So I just want to ask you like a quick couple like quick questions, and you just say yes
Sure.
or no real quick.
All right.
So would you say Drake is an alpha or a beta?
I don't even really follow, so I don't even. I don't know. I don't know
Just
enough to answer the question, so
alpha or beta.
I don't know. I'll say alpha then.
Okay. So
I don't-
would
yeah.
would you what would you rather take? 1,000 hoes or one loyal girlfriend? One loyal
One
wife.
one loyal wife. Yeah.
All right. Um. Okay. How many sons do you want?
I think one is enough.
One.
Yeah.
And would you? That's a good one. Would you die for your girl or wife in a certain situation?
Yeah. Sure. For sure.
Right. Thank you, man.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. Thanks for having me.
on again. Is there like anything, any products or something, you have coaching, anything you want to like get out there?
Yeah, I mean, I do the Bulldog Mindset membership. It's a monthly membership, big community of men with videos on improving yourself and developing your masculinity, financial, building business, all that kind of stuff. If you go to bulldogmindset.com, that's probably the best place to go. There's a quiz there to check out your Bulldog score. So go check that out. And then I've got videos on YouTube, Instagram, all that. So yeah, but bulldogmindset.com is the center to find out about all that.
Okay, great, man. Yeah, keep doing what you're doing. I really appreciate it because I think, as you said, now people don't now focus so much on helping men become the best version. It's more about
Yeah.
like blaming, complaining. Actually, it's turning men into beta males because all they do is sit in front of their computer on YouTube and just watch people complain to each other. And then there's even infighting in the red pill, which is the most hilarious thing to me. But
Yeah.
going and just keep on going. I've been watching live streams on YouTube, and it's really amazing.
All right, brother. Yeah, appreciate it. Take care.
All right, man. Thank you.